Hi there and welcome to another episode of Money Moves with Debt Rescue, the channel where we help you move your money in the right direction. For the next two episodes, we're going to be talking about great savings tips. As we know, this is savings month, so what a better time than to end this month with some ideas on how we can save. As we know, the last couple of months have really put a lot of pressure on our budgets, and it's up to us to find ways to make those rands stretch a little bit further, and we can do that with some small changes to our lifestyles. So our first tip is local is lekker. As we know, South Africa has a wealth of businesses and entrepreneurs who have their own startups. And what a better way than to not just support them, but also go and look for little hidden gems of where we could potentially be saving some money by supporting local. Tip number 2 is forget Hollywood. It's very easy to get swept up with the excitement of international wonderful things that are being advertised to us in our inboxes and that we see in all the media that we switch on and watch and read. But the reality is this is very tempting for us to end up buying things that we really don't need. So really important here, differentiate between wants and needs. Don't get swept up, don't get excited about things you most likely only want and not really need. Tip number 3 is switch off and take a hike. Our country has beautiful hiking trails and many of them at no cost. It's worth getting out there as hopefully the weather starts turning a little bit warmer soon. Get some fresh air, switch off the tech, and spend some time out in nature. Tip number 4 is thrift shopping. This is something that has really become quite popular, and especially in online and social media platforms where people are listing items that might be pre-loved, really good condition and significantly cheaper than what you would buy them in normal stores. So shop around, some really nice bargains out there where you can find great items at very good prices. Tip number 5 is thrift selling. There are a couple of really brilliant platforms that you can use, and probably the most well-known one is Facebook Marketplace. If you have some items in your cupboard that you would like to look at selling online, use the opportunity to do some thrift selling. Our 6th tip is aimed at the younger group of our viewers, student discounts. It's definitely worth looking around if you've got a student card, if you're currently studying, for places that offers special discounts just for students, whether this is when you're going out for a social event, perhaps getting takeouts, or using entertainment, maybe the movies. Look if there are some student discounts. A lot of the times there are. You can look at using your student card to get some discounts. Our 7th tip is a homebound eating rule. From a convenience perspective, nothing is better than a takeout meal because obviously we get home, we're tired, and the last thing we always necessarily feel like is cooking. But taking out often is definitely going to make a huge dent in your budget. So set some ground rules. If you're going to have takeouts, make it a treat, something to look forward to. And the rest of the time, do your planning accordingly so that it fits in with your budget. Make it a family event. Cook enough so that you have leftovers for the next day, and that way you can save quite a significant amount of money. Tip number 8 is pay yourself first. As we've mentioned in our previous videos about budgeting, an important factor there is to make sure that we set aside our savings and that we pay ourselves first from that. So as a rule of thumb, ideally you'd like to save around 10% of your income, but no matter what the amount, just make sure that whatever that amount is, that the moment your salary is paid in, you move that out into your separate bank account so that it doesn't become part of your transactional account and accidentally get used. So pay yourself first. Tip number 9 is buy in bulk. It's obviously something that you have to plan very carefully when you're buying in bulk, but a lot of the times there are some great specials when it comes to buying items in bulk and getting significant discounts. So here an important thing is look at the item, look at things like expiry dates, and perhaps sharing with friends or family when you buy in bulk so that you can get those discounts, but don't end up with any wastage. Tip number 10 is cash in on your loyalty cards. As we know, virtually every store out there right now has a loyalty card where you can either get immediate discounts right there at the till or have them loaded back onto the card in the form of a voucher. Or even better, where you can have multiple places where you can swipe the same card and, for example, get discounts when you are filling up with fuel or something to the like. Very important to make sure you keep your cards with you, and if you don't, look at downloading an app so you keep a virtual copy of the card, because most places are now also accepting that, but make sure you get those reductions and those discounts when you get to the till. Use shopping catalogues. That's tip number 11. There's quite a few sites out there where the weekly catalogues or monthly catalogues for most stores are being uploaded for you to peruse. Make this part of your planning before you go shopping. And of course, the alternative is using your community papers as they come out each week and go through those catalogues to plan your shopping accordingly. Tip number 12 is shop with a list. Do not go shopping if you do not have a list. If you don't, you could end up either buying things you don't need because you already have them, or forgetting to buy items that you thought you had and you didn't. Really important to plan your shopping. Make sure that you are buying items that are actually necessary, that you don't end up having to go back to the store to buy an item that you forgot, or end up with 3 or 4 of the same product because you actually did have them. Number 13 is setting boundaries with the kids. We know it's really hard to say no to the kids if we're in a store for something that they might want, but understanding that the family has a budget that everybody has to stick to is something we can teach our kids from a very young age, so that they can take this into life with them, to understand that planning is really important when it comes to our budgeting, and that a reward is exactly that. We work towards it so that we enjoy it a lot more. Let your mind rule your money. That's tip number 14. Make sure that emotions or your stomach don't rule how you plan on using your money. It's very easy to become enamored with a really nice new vehicle, or end up putting items into your trolley that you hadn't planned on because you were hungry. Making sure that you have a snack in your car, or you really think it through before you make any purchases, will make sure that your mind is in control of how you plan your expenditure. Our final tip for this week is turn off the lights during the day. We know that currently electricity prices are really high, and we also know that it's winter, so generally our electricity usage right now is higher than normal. But small changes here, by making sure we're not keeping the lights on during daylight hours, or for example making sure that we are changing our globes in our lamps and lights to more energy efficient ones, will help us make sure that we keep the electricity prices or expenditure to a lower amount. Small changes make big differences. We hope you enjoyed this first session of our 30 tips. Please remember to like this video, subscribe, and leave any comments on any tips you might have that we could include in the future. Watch next week's episode so that you can get the next 15 tips. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.